Social media and the power of anonymity. One of the most addictive drugs that has been sweeping the nation for a decade isn't a drug that you'll find from any pharmacy. The power of being anonymous and controlling others' perception of you through social media is one of the most common addictions in our society, especially amongst young adults. Anyone can be anything online. For young adults experiencing a developmental time in their lives, social media is especially attractive to adolescents who are just figuring out their identities. However, social media usage comes with its fair share of concerns. Rachel S. Dawson, a pediatric doctor, reported that, "I see a large number of adolescents in my clinic with issues related to their social media use. These issues range from lack of sleep to depression to cyberbullying and even sex trafficking, all secondary to constant social media exposure. The era of social media has evidently brought a plethora of issues to our society, especially among young adults. However, the most concerning and pressing issue is the distorted version of reality that its users experience. This distorted reality causes an unrealistic perception of beauty and lifestyle standards, while also negatively impacting how young adults interact with each other in social situations. The anonymity that social media provides causes a disconnect between reality and the internet that negatively impacts the way young adults act outside of it. Recent advancements in editing technology have allowed social media users to portray an idealistic version of themselves through its platforms, which reinforce an unrealistic need to be perfect, quote-unquote, in the real world. Apps such as Facetune or FaceApp can change a person's entire appearance, granting users the ability to proportionize themselves to fit unrealistic beauty standards. Young adults and adolescents are especially vulnerable as they are more likely to have insecurities regarding their appearance and use content creators who fit conventional beauty standards of beauty as blueprints. Recent research conducted among respondents ages 16 to 24 reported that 42% of Gen Z has experienced anxiety as a result of comparing themselves to others online. Additionally, the imitation of the perfect lifestyle through the lens of social media often causes others to feel inferior in comparison to a false narrative. Instagram, one of the most popular apps, has grown far beyond its early days of users posting candid, randomized pictures. Today, many of its users meticulously curate their pictures and posts to fit a certain aesthetic they gravitate towards or want to showcase. The concept in itself is harmless. However, the problem arises when users with large platforms depict fake lavish lifestyles, from luxury cars rented for pictures to face and body editing. This harms both the content creator as well as the content viewer, as both users are aspiring to a specific beauty standard or archetype of beauty in the real world that only exists digitally. According to scholarly journals, some cosmetic surgeons are raising the alarm about the number of young people going so far as to seek surgery to better match the altered versions of themselves they can create with filters on social media. It is clearly apparent that the anonymity that social media provides creates a platform for dishonesty, causing others to compare their lives and themselves to edited versions of others' lives, causing harm to both parties. The Red Pill social media movement has caused significant damage to the way young adults view and interact with their opposite gender. The last 2 years have brought on the rise of the self-proclaimed incel demographic through platforms such as TikTok and YouTube. Popular content creators such as Andrew Tate preach the alpha male lifestyle, essentially an extremist version of traditional gender roles in the modern scene, disguising their misogyny as dating advice. Most of these videos tend to consist of the same regurgitated talking points, typically promoting a male-dominated institution in which women are submissive homemakers, reminiscent of 1950s Stepford Wives, or in their words, a traditional dynamic. These ideals are typically popular among young men who tend to be outspoken on their views. We have reached an era where women are no longer expected to solely aspire to marriage and motherhood. Furthermore, most young women in today's age have a desire to focus on their careers before settling down, seemingly the opposite of what most incel men in their age bracket desire in a woman. Mark DeWolf found that women's participation in the U.S. labor force has climbed since World War II, from 32.7% in 1948 to 56.8% in 2016. It is clear that society has shifted exponentially since the era where most women were traditionally stay-at-home wives. Essentially, red pill young men want to regress to an era that doesn't exist anymore, while young women are leaning towards progressive lifestyles and ideals. The disconnect stems from the fact that many social media users tend to confuse what is socially acceptable online in certain niche spaces with what is socially acceptable in reality. In turn, this causes young men to follow the red pill lifestyle and exercise their blatant misogyny towards women in social spaces. Some might argue that the pros of social media usage far outweigh the cons, as it can be utilized as a tool for networking and fostering connections. However, some people utilize social media platforms as a replacement for reality, leading to a significant stunt in social learning and a disoriented perception of beauty in young adults. The Brown Political Review reported Gen Z is actually more isolated and celibate than any other prior generation. One survey found that young people today are twice as likely to report feeling lonely than seniors over 65. It is apparent that social media is doing an immense amount of damage to young, impressionable minds. Young women are comparing themselves to edited versions of influencers' posts, while young men are using misogynists as role models and life coaches. We as a society need to be more cautious of what we post and the type of content we consume, as the inherent ripple effect that the internet causes has serious implications on the younger generations. Thank you.